Once again, a humble request to all those standing to please be seated. We'll be starting with our next session in a few more minutes. Just a couple of minutes and we are good to go. A big thank you to all our partners. Presenting partner ICICI Lombard, principal partner Kotak Mutual Fund, country partner Israel, summit partner Jan Small Finance Bank, innovation partner Escorts, knowledge partner KPMG, associate partners Excite, Aditya Capital, American Oncology Institute, SBI Mutual Fund vendors, session partners, Bain Capital, Petronas, PNB MetLife, Barclays, ICICI Prudentials, Rockman Industries, Tata Capital, technology partner IBM, policy partner Pehle India Foundation, academic partner BML Munjal University, magazine partner Business World, print media Business Standard, electronic partner CNBC, live streaming 360 streaming solutions, and social media 45 degrees. Once again, a humble request, all those standing, to please be seated. So can we have the next session, please? There you go, ladies and gentlemen. This is the 9th session, Remaking Our Cities. Are existing master plans good enough? Please join me in welcoming our esteemed group of panelists, Mr. Dikshu Kukreja, Principal Architect, CP Kukreja Architects. Can we have a round of applause for sir? Mr. Rajiv Talwar, Managing Director DLF, Mr. M. Murali, Chairman and Managing Director Shriram Properties, Mr. Anshuman Magazine, Chairman and CEO Southeast Asia, Middle East and Africa, CBRE, and the session moderated by Ms. Manisha Natarajan, Group Editor, Real Estate and Urban Development, CNBC TV 18. Can we have a round of applause for our group of panelists? Over to you, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. Very interesting topic. Master plans, are they relevant today in remaking of our cities? Now, each one of us lives in an urban conglomerate, and we are all invested in our cities. And whenever we travel internationally, we always wonder, can we not do better with our cities? Can we not have them cleaner? Can we not have better housing? Can we not have better infrastructure? Can we not have better roads? Why are master plans working or not working is something that we're going to focus on. Now, if you go back in history, essentially our urban planning is based on master plans. But if you dig a little bit deeper, it traces back to the British era. So 1947, master plans made then are still the basis of all the rules and regulations that states use to make master plans of our cities today. Do we need more dynamic city planning? How do we get to making our cities future ready, considering that 70% of our GDP is going to be from cities by the year 2030? I'm going to start with asking the urban planner and architect first. Dikshu Kukreja, I believe architects have been arguing for the longest time whether master plans are required, considering that they're 10-year plans and so static. What's your view?
First of all, the notion of master plan itself is a misnomer. I think this name master plan that we've given it has led to a lot of confusion, because really what we are looking at, particularly in India, and like you rightly said, so that it's a model we've taken from UK, it's a very, very two-dimensional approach. Sometimes it makes me feel that when you look at a master plan of DDA for Delhi, it feels like it has been lifted from a Pete Mondrian painting, that artwork where you have red, blue, and yellow telling you what is what to be done. But really, I think the right name we should have for it is master strategies. Because like a very noted urban thinker, Kevin Lynch, had said, that when we look at neighborhood characters, we are not just looking at the two-dimensional strategy of where is housing, where is a hospital, and where is commercial. But we need to look at the entire neighborhood character in terms of the history, the culture, the natural resources available there, the transportation, all these things tie up together. And that, I think, for me and fellow urban planners has been the bane here, that we have been looking at master plans very, very two-dimensionally. And we need to understand that when we live in cities, we experience cities. And that's the way master planning should be done. It has to be an experiential strategy which should be out there in terms of how the entire city or the plan. Yep, thank you. How that, yeah, that's much better, thank you. How the entire city is experienced by the users who are there. And that requires, with the master plan, we require a three-dimensional thinking. We need to understand what massing has to be there, what densities have to be there, what orientation has to be there. All that should come together when we talk about the aesthetics of the master plan. And then there are, of course, other aspects to it that in India particularly, master plans have been a catch-up exercise. So if we have a 2021 master plan coming out, it actually, for a 20-year period, it comes out 10 or 15 years when those years have already passed. So we are just catching up with the conceiving of how the city should move on from there. Master plans have to be thought through as strategies as 5-year planning, 10-year planning, and 25-year planning. They have to have an element of clairvoyance there where you should be able to look at an idealistic situation of where and how do you want your cities to be in the future. They can't be just catching up in terms of providing infrastructure.
I think catching up, that's the key word of how we can describe our cities, Rajiv Talwar, isn't it? I mean, we're constantly catching up. We get a Delhi-Gurgaon toll road, and we already have a huge congestion there in the peak time. What are we getting wrong? I mean, one is that, yes, we are constantly catching up, but if you have a vision for a city, for an early colonizer like DLF, there is a millennium city now, like Gurgaon. Yep. You ask people who are living in Gurgaon, and they have, you know, they may be enjoying living there, but they also have daily challenges of life there and quality of life.
They actually have challenges because that expressway was planned 20 years ago. It actually opened in the year when it was supposed to meet its peak capacity. So it truly is catching up. I think I'm personally against using any word as master plan or master strategies too, sorry Dikshu, because there's no master planning. Everyone needs planning. But the word master actually conveys power to my tribe, to which I belonged originally in the government, because somebody becomes a master. And then it becomes in stone. And they decide what are you going to build, where are you going to build, how much FAR you will get. And our experience of 70 years, right from 1957 when DDA was made first through a subordinate legislation of the parliament, and then every city, everyone got an authority, everyone got these planning strategies through. Everywhere the basic attempt of the politician and the bureaucrat has been how to create a shortage. Everyone asks a familiar question, Manisha, when will the real estate sector revive? What they really mean is, when will I start seeing profits, profits, and profits? I make an investment like gold. In 5 years' time, will it double its price? If it doesn't, that means the sector has collapsed. Basically, we are supposed to have surplus housing. We are supposed to have surplus cities. We haven't planned a single city. We still depend on master planning existing cities. How do we change them? How do we plan not to do in certain areas? Everyone's worried about in this city something called the Lutyens Bungalow Zone. All that they're really worried about is, will Sundarnagar, Bengali Market, Golf Links and Jorbagh get the right to make 4 stories in each plot? They're not really worried about what the Prime Minister possibly discussed before he came to Delhi. And I can promise you that, which was in 2014 January, that will we remove all the ministers' bungalows, 60 people in the cabinet, will they be housed in 2 multi-storied buildings of 30 floors each, maybe give them 10,000 or 12,000 or 15,000 square feet flats, apartments, but no bungalows. That could be meaningful over there, because it would give you plenty of green area around. And it could free about more than 1,000 police personnel who are given guarding duties over there. Servants' quarters which are larger in number than the number of bungalows. So we need to change our thinking. We haven't made new cities. We haven't got even a simple thing that if you treat rivers as a drain of the last resort, then how can you ever have a clean river? All our STPs were supposed to be funneling in filth and muck into river Yamuna. How can you ever have a river Yamuna clean? And we've had that litigation going on for more than 20 years.
But you've opened a Pandora's box saying that in making our cities dynamic and future ready, what you're suggesting is that we can actually change the very character of a city. Lutyens, Delhi,
Everyone's
how do you
worried
preserve
about-
that? All right, let me get
Yes,
Anshuman
go
in
ahead.
and I'll come back to you. Because, keeping a city vibrant is not about just making high rises. It's also about keeping the city's core and soul heritage going.
Sorry, if you're going to make cities and urbanization house double the population from what today, if we don't go in for high rises, I don't think there is any other solution. And
Let's find out
very
someone who lives in Johor
Just a
Bahru.
minute, Manisha. People very often say that yes, there's shortage of electricity, there's shortage of water. With 50% of all towns and cities living in slums and unauthorized colonies, I think the first responsibility of everyone in this country should be to say that yes, if 600 million people are going to live in cities, we need to plan water, electricity freely available to them, not by free, I mean that, okay, paid for, but in large quantities. We have lived in an era of economic shortages. That's what government controls are all for. We need to free from over there. I think the best example is electricity privatization in Delhi.
All right. Do you believe that right now, the way our cities are looked at, what do master plans do, Anshuman? Basically, they zone land. It's land usage. This can be used for housing. This can be used for commercial. This can be used for public spaces. Do you believe that it leads to more control rather than development in the right way?
I think the most important thing is there is no leadership and accountability right now. So if you look at any city in India, there are multiple authorities. We talk about Delhi, but that's the same in Bangalore and other places. So, and where does the buck stop? Who is accountable? Any city, you'll say there is a municipality, there's a state government, there is a central government. There's no accountability. And one of the things we need to urgently do is, I hope, the new government has got a chief of armed services as one person. For every city, there has to be one person who's accountable. Every agency, even if you have divisions, should have an apex body where they have to meet regularly. So you're not having one agency digging holes. The other agency in the same plane will be filling holes and other is digging cables on it. Or you have a parking lot in middle of it, there's an electricity pole, Till the time you don't get these multi-agencies accountable to one person, and in most of the other cities, it's the mayor. We have a mayor in cities in India, but nobody knows their name. In England, the mayor of London has become the prime minister. I mean, he's doing well or not, that's another issue. But the fact is, there is an accountable person in every city who has that planning, who's accountable. Till the time we don't get accountability in cities here, it won't work. Second, very quickly, is that there has to be a neighborhood development plan, then a city plan, then a state plan. You have to go bottom up, not top down.
All right.
Right?
That's a very interesting thing, you have to go bottom up. I mean, local areas have to be developed and then they have to dovetail into a larger city plan and then the state plan.
To do that, you have to involve the people. You have to create awareness. So if you're doing, a lot of times the people don't get involved. And so if you're saying we're going to get a metro from here, or we are going to build a flyover, or put a cycling path, you have to tell the citizens what is the benefit, involve them, and really get the people living in that area involved in the whole plan, create awareness, then implement it, And I think that does not happen. You have to involve the people. We can sit here and complain about the bureaucracy, the politicians, the 100 problems. The people have to be involved by the city level. We have corporators, we have everything on paper. But you have to involve the people to implement the plan. So
all right. Murali, what would you agree with and disagree with? The fact that, A, we need master plans. It's a question of implementation and multiplicity of agencies, which is the reason why we are failing our cities to meet the basic requirements of its people? Or do you believe that master plans themselves should be done away with and, let's start, have a complete fresh rethink, start at the bottom and ask, what do the people want?
He's a master planner. He started with a lot of struggle. His mic did not function. So we do not need rebooting anymore. We need to change the mic. We need to change the entire master plan approach itself. We need to just take a call today, next 3 months, nothing. We do away with all the master plans. I come from South India. The CDP in Bangalore has gone through 3 times changes with the 3 chief ministers in the last 1 year. Still CDP is not implemented
That's
yet.
Chennai Development Plan.
Bangalore.
Bangalore.
Comprehensive development plan for Bangalore city, which is due. 2015 was due. 2031, they need to create a master plan. 3 chief ministers have come, colored black, red, blue, whatever the way they want it, as long as it is Gandhi. So nothing has happened in the
Bangalore
last...
has a problem of frequently changing government, so that could be the reason why
No,
nothing has.
that's not the reason. It's as long as Gandhiji matters, everything went well. So three master plan has been changed, but nothing has come into effect so far. So I think we need to change the entire master plan, but we need to have macro plan. See, I agree with that bottom up. Again, the problem is the constitution starts with we the people of India. But we the people of India are like sitting ducks. As long as we are sitting duck, the problem will continue. Earlier session they were talking about social media, the impact of social media, how it is changing. Again, even Sashidhar talking about postman should not be punished. See, postman is the most powerful guy today in carrying this message to the world. But bottom-up approach is the right approach, but corporators are there. There are, out of 100 corporators, you can find maybe 0.01 corporator is a good corporator, remaining 99.9 is interested in Gandhiji, not the people. That's the unfortunate thing today. But we the people of country are sitting ducks. Unless, you have seen, some of you would have seen Amitabh Bachchan movie in early 70s. You need to reform. You need to get up and start working on that. There are 2 things we need to do. One is top down. We need to have a complete, we need to scrap whatever the master plan today. We need to have one country, one plan. That's very, very critical. We need to have one complete master plan for entire housing need. As Rajiv said, we need to be talking about it. India is a large population. We need to be talking about excess housing. Today, after about 73 years of independence, as Prime Minister rightly pointed out, we are still talking about housing shortage. How can we talk about housing shortage is a basic need
So
of...
I haven't understood, Murli. Are you saying that we do need planning and we should do away with master plan? Then what do you
We do away with the current process of master plan. We need to have one single master plan for the next 30 years or 40 years.
For the entire country?
For the entire country. Keeping in mind, housing should be in excessive supply. That's very, very critical. The second one, what Anshuman said, bottom-up process to control. That's very important. See, sitting in North Block, somebody cannot control the entire country. It will be difficult. So we, the people, should take the responsibility of ensuring that the master plan is properly implemented. That's very important. If you look at the master plan, there are some DDA developed these projects. A lot of people are deviated. Housing sites have become office building.
Well, definitely it's not working because, and I'm going to bring Rajiv Talwar in here again, because, you have a Delhi master plan, you have zoning, and yet you have illegal colonies, which is a huge problem, and we're living through it. You have the largest, we have the tag of our financial capital having the largest slum. So that has not worked. I'm going to shift a little bit here, the gear a little bit here, and ask you that irrespective of what you say, in the last 5 years of NDA 1, we've seen unprecedented attention at least to urban planning. So not just housing, look at Amrit, look at smart cities, look at Hriday. So whether it's conservation, whether it's, basics like water, waste, etc., or it's like area-based development in smart cities. There's attention, there is some amount of money being parked. Even then, we don't see the impact. Is it because it's too early to see the impact, or do you think that we still haven't got it right?
I think if we have to make more than 1 to 2 crore homes, it will take time Fortunately, I think the state funding is there to a tune of more than about 75,000 crores, so there's enough pumping in. But that doesn't solve the problem of affordable housing in excess, with the millennial generation also changing jobs and wishing to change cities very often. I think we need to make land priced as close to zero as possible. There's enough land with the government to price it like that. Simply go and allow, there are enough. We've offered to the Prime Minister's office that as an association, which is called the National Real Estate Development Council, we will give you plans for single-storied, double-storied, 4 stories, 8, 10, 20, 30 stories, ready to construct. It's called GCC, it's good for GFC, good for construction drawings. Allow people to start projects. They're not going to be completed before 2 or 3 years. And any authority can come and inspect. It's like the model in Gujarat, which was earlier being talked about, that the lift inspectorate was done away. The best of the firms supply lifts, and during the construction of the building, if there is anything to be inspected, and during the operation of the building for decades after that, the company supplying the lift needs to be responsible for it. I think we need to change many a thing. I think we are about 17 minutes left. Manisha, could we get to the question-answer session?
I just want to
Anshuman
add, the fact is that before a master plan, we need a vision plan. You can't, I think one of the questions was, do we need a 50-year plan? The fact is, today's time, you can't plan for 50 years. Technology is changing. You are planning highways. In 50 years, there may be flying cars, you know. You may not need highways, for example. However, a vision statement, for example, a Delhi certainly needs a vision statement that by a certain year, we'll be pollution-free. Or in Chennai, they'll be flood-free. So if you look at China, for example, China has got a vision plan for coastal cities. By 2030, they'll be flood-free. So the program is sponge cities. So when they are looking at making roads or parks or lakes, how that city will become like a sponge city so they will not have floods.
So
London has a carbon neutral
have targets
plan, vision.
and get there. Have
And then you
vision,
plan
have targets. Everything
Along
around
with the
that.
planning, we need to fix the population. That's the most critical. Just not the planning alone. We need to fix the population. Let's say you make an area planning for a particular portion. Let's say 1 square kilometer. You need to fix the population. How many office buildings will be there? How much is the population can be accommodated? How many hospitals are required? How many schools are required?
but-
How many primary schools?
but I would say even
PH
go
is
beyond
required.
it.
So once that is fixed, you'll not have traffic problems. That's very critical.
But I'm saying go beyond that, because this is known that you do, but it doesn't happen. So for example, in a coastal city, what is the sea rising? You know, what are the environmental impact? How do you do water conservation? What is the immigration? So there's huge study one should do before you do
Today,
a planning.
the problem
and then
what we have in urban
know-
cities is not just this planning. It's unprecedented growth. Why should have, Gurgaon so much population today? It's not required. You free up Delhi, Gurgaon will be no existent. There is no necessity for
And
Gurgaon
who will
to
buy
even
the
exist.
homes that you are building? Anyway, they
No, you see, I'm going to go back to that issue, and I agree with Anshuman here, that we definitely, when you talk about the requirement, the need for a master plan, I think we definitely need a vision statement, just the way any company needs it, a country needs it.
I think vision strategy. That's
So
what we're
that's
talking
very
about.
important, because that physical vision document for a city is a must. You can't just make it, a banana republic that anybody can go ahead and do whatever they want. But what has been missing so far is what I want to emphasize on, and that's the approach. Who creates these master plans and for whom? The master plans are created for all of us, but there is no participatory master planning. And it happens in the ivory towers of, let's say, a Vikas Minar or a Vikas Sadan or like that in other cities. But they are not in touch with ground realities. They might be living in that Latvian zone, going and attending a Vikas Minar office and deciding what the city needs. That approach has to change. Approach has to come from here. There has to be community-based master planning. That's number one. Number two, what is important is we don't just, so far master planning talks about what's the population, what's the household size, let's calculate the economic activity, and red, blue, yellow, hitherto is there on the drawing. Master planning is about understanding that city's culture, understanding, for example, India is resplendent with culture and history and historical monuments. Is there any talk about conservation? It's a mere address of a couple of pages in the master plan document. You need to look at that.
What about environment?
I
mean,
that was my
cities are
next point.
contributing
What
to
about
75% of
sustainability?
CO2
We are
carbon
talking here about
dioxide
master plan and
emissions.
smart cities. Our cities are not even breathable. They don't have air and water in which we can, or water to serve us. So the master planning approach from here on, I believe, should be driven by what that city can offer, not what we demand out of that city or that piece of land. So sustainability is absolutely now something we cannot ignore.
Jakarta is a good example where parts of it is sinking and they're shifting and developing a completely new city, and it's not next to it. It's an hour's flight in a place in Borneo, because Jakarta just haven't, and I've seen Jakarta for many years. They were really nice, good, robust city, better infrastructure than Delhi.
So you're saying that
But
they're
it's just
planning ahead. Now with rising sea levels, you're already thinking of another city. All right, we've got very little time left. You know, cities are conversations we can have for the entire day. But let's throw it open to our audience. All of you live in cities. All of you have a question. Please go ahead, sir. Gentleman in the check, Sadri, please, if you would like to ask something.
I am Dr. V. Mohan Kumar. I am from the education sector. You know, when we plan for construction of houses and other things, building is kept at the top of the mind, not the human beings. When we construct houses for the poor people, the size of the house comes small. For others, penthouses are constructed for 2 people. I worked in Chennai Slum Clearance Board. The Slum Clearance Board tenements are 10 or 15 feet into...
Sir, is there a question there?
No,
Please
it is
do
just
ask that.
it's a not question. Actually, I'm just telling. It's my point of view. You know, this is a very pathetic thing. 15-member family is accommodated in a 10 into 10 house. So naturally, there is a crowd in the house. People come and stay on the road. Water is not given. Public taps are 5 floors down.
So you're saying that the buildings are designed without really keeping people's needs in mind. All right, let's move on to the next gentleman here. I think he's been waiting to ask a question. Go ahead, sir.
Myself, Lokesh Parashar. I run the Federation of Buying Agents, and somewhere we travel abroad. I think 37 times in a year we are there, and we always compare. I usually do my business on my bicycle in Delhi. A lot of my friends, even corporate friends, even in government, they said, how can you do this in Delhi? Is it not safe? So my question to the planners is, when you're planning these master plans, and I'm a civil engineer myself, why have you forgotten the pedestrians and cyclists? Now you're talking about yoga, fitness, and all that. Now there's special committee now coming out with the Prime Minister saying that everybody has to now be fit.
Sir, you're right. And I'm going to take your question right there. Why is everything, Dikshu, Kukreja, being planned for vehicles? I mean, I have
only for cars.
If I'm walking,
Not even vehicles,
I have
private
to
vehicles.
go 2 floors up, over a road, bridge, foot over road. Isn't it? What is called?
Foot over bridges.
Foot over bridge, sorry.
So it reinforces the same point that I was trying to make, that this is not a participatory planning. It is someone
Not at all.
sitting there who's drawing on that piece of paper a road which keeps getting wider and wider every 10 years, but you don't think about the hundreds of people who could be using non-motorized transport like cycles or other environment-friendly measures, or the good old pedestrian. I mean, when we
So there's a big policy mismatch when you're making a policy and you're teaching people to be fit. How do you do that?
So the answer to the why for me, Manisha, is that it has to be participatory. It has to be more open to what the people need and not being told. Master plans in India have tended to be very prescriptive. Don't do this, do this.
Yes.
I don't think that's the way they should work.
One of you gentlemen, yes.
My name is Rituraj. I have a very small suggestion. You know, in the participative mode, whenever we have construction happening, let's say of a flyover, rather than writing on boards again and again, inconvenience, regretted, can we write, you will be enjoying an amazing flyover on this date? And write that again and again at various places. So just talk about execution.
We have a cynicism mindset in our society. See, the society can be built, or even the slum. He talked about Chennai. Only by entrepreneurship, the society can be uplifted. Are we celebrating entrepreneurs as a society? Is a question we need to ask. Unless and otherwise we start celebrating the people who contribute to the society, society will never improve. Here we only start criticizing. That's the basic problem. So it's a fundamental issue. Everything starts from there. Let's start celebrating somebody who contributes to the growth. That's very important.
But Murli,
then the flyover also will change.
his suggestion is very good because it's totally opposite of what used to be written earlier. Go slow, work in progress, which means go slow, work in progress. Let's give a date over there that yes, you'll enjoy, and it won't be like the...
Rajiv, I'm saying there is a need today not to change the signboards, change the mind here.
Well, that
The way we
mindset will
think.
go.
Then signboards will change. This is one example. There are another 1,000 examples. For that, mind needs to be changed. That's very important.
So the mindset should be that there are no longer masters. They are participants.
Yeah.
In the planning process, they're no longer masters. And one of the changes is that let them keep, like the metro, reverse clock, that so many days are left, complete your work. Very good, sir.
Again, there was one mind. Sridharan made that change. So we need the mind change. So it is not that metro has done it. The current metro is not doing it. Because Sridharan had that mind to do that.
But again, it goes back
So
to
the mind
leadership.
change is
What
what
I'm
really
saying,
got-
Sridharan, it's
It
leadership.
goes back to
And
leadership.
accountability.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
May I suggest, because this is a very important topic, may I suggest do a survey of all the cities, especially the metros, where the master plan has been prepared and formulated with great care, and find out whether these are actually being implemented. You will get a big surprise. Because I will give two instances. Recently, they just passed an order that all the buildings now can have 1+3 floors, you know. And now
Yes.
what is happening? I'll give you an instance. Supposing if you are staying in a private locality, one person starts demolishing his building, the builders come and starts preparing and for the construction. The next fellow, an old people, they do not want to build the thing, and they are suffering for 2 years. Now after that, to the right of there, they also start thinking of constructing, and then they build. It has created a total chaos, you know. And now recently, in the Cooperative Group Housing Society, they have increased the FAR in Dwarka and other thing. The multi-storied flats are there without bothering, because people are living in those societies.
Right.
How are they going to increase the FAR? And it has created big mayhem in the whole city. May I ask all the people, learned people who write for the master plans, as to why this is being done when the master plans are there, why they are not being implemented. There are many issues, I'll stop it here, but please take it seriously. It is no point
Implementation
discussing.
challenges. Anshuman, you want to take it? I mean,
One is-
and this economic need to constantly change FAR rules, which changes the character of a locality and makes it so much more congested.
The problem is economic is an invested interest, right? And the second is not only residential, because this whole FSI thing, you build an office building, nobody does traffic studies. In many countries, if you are developing something new, the developer or whoever agency is developing, they need to spend money on doing traffic study and justify that if you're going to 4 floors or if you're making a 10-story building, that means there'll be so many people living. What is the impact on infrastructure, including what you call parking and traffic? And can the existing infrastructure take that many
Isn't
cars?
our problem,
That doesn't happen
Anshuman,
yet.
also the fact that rules are simply not followed? Like, even
Also.
though it's been asked to, the permission has been given to rise up to 4 floors, all parking has to be in the still area.
Yeah.
But people have 3 cars a house, so any which ways parking is happening
but
outside.
the
and
problem-
there's no,
Sorry, the
There's
problem
a
in
graver
India-
concern. There's a graver concern I want to bring out. We are talking about 1+3. But what happens every 5 years when elections come around the corner and we start declaring colonies, localities,
Unauthorized
which are
colonies become
unauthorized,
authorized.
and we say they are fine. What message are we
The
sending there?
biggest problem
So
in India
that's
is we
even more
just,
serious.
the vested interest, only think of the municipal person will think what money he's making, the builders think what money he's making, the occupants of that plot of land is thinking, if I do these 3 floors, I'll make more money. Everybody are
economic
thinking only
interest, greed.
thinking of
Let's
themselves.
talk about it and term it as greed. I mean, greed comes first. City livability has become pretty much the last position
Give
in our,
people
in
a
our
chance.
city planning. Go
Make
ahead,
it more participative. Please go ahead.
Go ahead.
There's Kamal Mittal asking a question. He'll pass on the mic to you surely after that.
Thank you. I would like to know how important do you think it is to have certified green buildings, A, and B, a new standard which talks about health and well-being?
Now we have a livability index. Who would like to take?
Absolutely essential.
There are
I
two
think we
things.
have not only Griha coming up, and we also have lead platinum or lead ratings. I think it's absolutely essential for every high rise. You cannot have a 4 or an 8 or a higher building without doing this. In fact, something which no one has touched upon is water recycling. Everyone's talking about rainwater harvesting. It's time we planned, water recycling at least 2 to 3 times. Toilet, air conditioning, power generation.
So, Mr. Mittal, my take on this is that gone is the time when we do the catch-up, that here is a building, should we make it green? And if we make it green, do we rate it silver, gold, platinum? I think the new master plans, and I'm using the same term, but the vision document should now state that you cannot lay a brick unless that whole built environment that you're creating or the building is green. We don't have the luxury anymore to say, I'm creating a building. Do you want me to make it silver rated or gold rated as the rating goes in sustainability? We are living in cities, like I said, where there's no air or water. So we have to work the other way around in these vision documents, and it should be imperative that you cannot build unless it is sustainable.
There is one conflict here. See, Hyderabad is one such example today. According to me, real estate prices will never move up in Hyderabad for the next 10 years. It's just because of the existing infrastructure created today. And I don't see a problem for housing for all happening in Hyderabad sooner. Because prices cannot move up. And land prices can be closer to zero. How do you create that? Without any master plan, if you keep talking about green, structure and all that, it increases to the cost. People like us can pay. But how can you create a housing for the slum clearance?
But okay, that's a very big debate that it has to happen.
We need to focus
All right,
on
we
it.
have one more
That's
question.
very
Gentlemen, we have one more question. He's been
So
waiting.
my question is, I was interested in the panel's comment on our 100 Smart City initiative. And I also wanted to offer to the delegates, anybody interested in a study report where Indian School of Business has collected data from 53 cities, which has got population above 1 million, we'll be happy to share the report. So I'll be interested in comments on our 100 Smart City
Okay,
initiative.
we have less than a minute, so let's start from the left. 100 smart cities, 1 or 2 lines. What do you think?
Absolutely essential. Please give the report. I think whether it is water recycling, whether it's environmental, whether it's infrastructure development, or even for that matter, laying of optical fiber cables so that you don't have to interact so much with the authorities except online, absolutely essential.
I think 100 smart cities, again, is a great vision to begin with, and I'm glad it is there, but implementation is still a challenge. Most of the cities, again, multiple authorities, some places there's funding, other places there, again, people, different agencies still arguing. So it's a great vision. I'm glad it's there. The government needs to focus on implementation.
It's a great idea with good intention started, but you need to have 100 Sridharan to be there. With complete freedom to implement, you can see 2 years, the whole thing will be changed. But mind has to be there.
Complete freedom to implement as well.
That's very critical.
Dikshu, Kukreja, and then we will.
So, echo there the panelists that yes, of course, it is a great initiative. But I think more than smart cities, and we incidentally prepared that vision document 6 years ago for the government to create smart cities. But what has got missed out, which was there in our vision document, is we need smart citizens. How can we expect cities to smarten unless we, as a public, our approach towards our cities changes?
Doesn't change.
So that once that happens, and I could go on about how that can be done, but the point is we need to decide that we want to make our cities smart, not the administrators pumping in X thousand crores to make our cities smart.
I think we'll have to
make
completely
sure
conclude here. We have run out of time. I'm really sorry we've not been able to take questions.
Water and all those things, if we do, our cities will smarten up on their own.
Smart citizens, 50 billion interconnected devices. That's where the world is headed to. Use of technology, change of mindset, right leadership, and I think we can achieve miracles even with our cities. Not giving up hope, we can have world-class cities. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being on my panel and at Hero Mindmine.
Thank you. I would request you to please be seated for a couple of more minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we start with the polling. You have the voting pads in your hand. Here we go with the question. Indian cities need to plan 50 years ahead and not just 10 years. If you agree, please press A. If you disagree, please press B. If you can't say anything, please press C. It's a 30-second voting system, so please be quick. Once you've pressed your option, you can keep the pad on the table. Indian cities need to plan 50 years ahead and not just 10 years. A agree, B disagree, and C can't say. There you go. 76.32% agree, 22.37% disagree, and 1.32% can't say. With that, I would request our chairman, Rockman Industries, Shri Sumankant Munjal sir, to kindly grace the stage and present a memento to our esteemed group of panelists. Can we have a round of applause for sir?
I think my takeaway from here should be, one is that ISB report, and the other one is Mr. Rituraj's suggestion that let's have new road signage. No longer saying inconvenience is regretted. No regrets, let's build new cities and better cities here itself.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please give us a couple of minutes to reset.